So Chris, can you tell me how OVESCO came about?
Okay, the directors of OVESCO, the original directors, met in 2007, and that was at a Transition Town open space event, which was a one-day event specifically about energy. And at that, there was Howard Johns, myself, Chris Rowland, Liz Mandeville and Dirk Campbell, and also Matthew Bird, who is the Sustainability Officer for Lewes District Council. He made us aware of the fact that there was a grant scheme that the council were looking to put out to tender for microgeneration grants for homes that wanted solar thermal panels. And we put in a bid to run that grant scheme, and that's how we managed to set up Ouse Valley Energy Services Company, or OVESCO, as a private limited company with the founding directors, Howard, myself, Chris, Liz and Dirk. And we've been running that grant scheme for the last 5 years, and it's just come to an end now that we're came to an end April 2012. And I think we gave out about £450,000 worth of grant funding, which benefited 250 homes, mostly for solar thermal, but the scheme got expanded to include wood burning stoves, ground source heat pumps, a little bit of PV, and some also biomass boilers. And also we did some work on insulation for homes, encouraging people to get insulation in their homes and directing them where they could get help with low cost or free insulation for their homes, just depending on their circumstances.
Thanks. And a couple of years ago, OVESCO got involved in something much bigger, which has become well known nationally. Can you tell us about that project?
Yes, once we got set up as a company and we were in the grant scheme, really what we'd always wanted to do was a larger renewable energy project. Initially we looked at hydropower, and we spoke to a company called H2OP who'd done a project in Yorkshire with an Archimedean screw, and we thought perhaps we could do hydropower on the River Ouse. But then the feed-in tariff came into place, and we realised that solar PV was much simpler than a hydropower project. And we went to speak to our local brewer, Harvey's, because we knew they had a large warehouse in Lewes, which would be ideal for a PV array. And we set up an Industrial and Providence Society for Community Benefit as a second company, specifically to raise capital for that renewable energy project. Once Harvey's had said yes, and we decided that we were going to go ahead in 2011, we were up against the feed-in tariff cut, the first cut, and we had to install in July 2011 in order to get the feed-in cap tariff. We only had about 6 weeks to raise the capital for the project in order to then go ahead and make the installation happen. And it all happened very, very quickly, and we installed 3 days before the feed-in tariff cut came into place. And that absolutely had to be done in order to make the project financially viable.
So what were the key factors in successfully raising that large amount of money in such a short space of time?
I think because Transition Town Lewes had already got a network of people who were interested in things like climate change, peak oil, renewable energy, resilience, that there was a kind of interest in the idea of generating our own local renewable power. Everyone is a big fan of Harvey's as a brewery in the town, and they're very supportive of events in the town as well, things like bonfire societies and other sort of community schemes. So the community felt like this was a really good project, and they were interested in investing in it. They could see that it was financially viable. We put out a share issue document that showed them how they'd been paid back for investing in the project. And there was just a sort of buzz that was generated by the project. It was something new and something that people wanted to be involved with, and using the Transition Town newsletter and connections, we managed to raise most of the money from Lewes or around the Lewes area. Okay,
and were people motivated by the opportunity to generate a return, or were there other reasons why people made that investment?
I think that varied. There were certainly some key people in Transition Town Lewes who probably just wanted to see it happen. The financial return wasn't the most important thing to them. There were others who could see that at that time they couldn't get much of a return on their bank, and also there was a tax incentive called the EIS scheme, which meant that it was financially attractive to do this as well. So there was kind of a mixed bag of those who thought, well, looks like financially attractive, looks like something we'd like to support, and those who wanted to do it for sort of more ethical reasons or reasons about climate change.
And since the success of the Harvey's scheme, that's led to a number of other fair-sized PV installations in the town.
Yes, we raised more than enough capital from the Harvey's Brewery project, and we also got a loan of £50,000. We needed to raise £306,000 to make the project happen, and in fact with the loan we raised over £400,000, so we had some spare capital, and we were pretty keen to find some new projects to put that money into. And we approached 2 schools and a village hall, and they were all interested in doing projects with us. But another cut was about to come in the feed-in tariff, and a legal challenge was made against the government before Christmas by Friends of the Earth because they wanted to cut the feed-in tariff early. Therefore, at that stage, we had to put the projects on hold, which was rather frustrating because we were sort of going almost at the point where all 3 were going to go ahead. One of those projects decided to go ahead themselves. That's Plumpton Village Hall. They installed PV panels themselves recently. Priory School wanted to continue after Christmas, and we decided we were going to install 35 kilowatts on the roof of that school. The other schools sort of fell by the side, although we'd like to do a project with them again in the future. And we found 2 more projects, one at Barkham Nursery and one at Brickyard Farm. And by using all of those, we could use all of the capital, and in fact we need to raise a little bit of extra capital now to complete all of those projects. And we successfully completed all 3 of those, 35 kilowatts at Priory School, nearly 20 kilowatts at Brickyard Farm, and 9 kilowatts at Barkham Nursery in July of this year.
And what next?
We really like to do a larger project. We're in a national park. The wind turbine would be great, but that's very controversial around here. There's only one large wind turbine, and that's at Glyndebourne. We may be looking at a solar PV field array, or perhaps a biomass project. We're probably solar PV. We sort of understand that. We can make that work financially, and rather use the feed-in tariff, we'd use the ROCs in order to finance that. And there have already been some share issues in the UK that are doing that. It's just a matter of finding the right site and the right kind of people to work with to make that happen.
Great. Anything else you'd like to say?
I think if there's anything I wanted to add, it would be about the need to share knowledge between different communities and support each other, because when we did Harvey's Brewery, a lot of people phoned us up at that point and were very interested in doing the same sort of projects locally. I had them come from West Country, from Scotland, from over near Norwich, and unfortunately the early cut in the feed-in tariff that was proposed before Christmas caused some disruption, and there was calls for a community feed-in tariff, which hasn't happened and may not happen. But it's that disruption and the way that government policy can drive these things forward or otherwise cause problems with them, which is one issue I want to bring up. But the other one is about sharing knowledge and encouraging others to continue to think that renewables can be viable, that we can drive down the costs as the cost of generating electricity and heat increase, because fossil fuels get harder to extract.
Great, thanks very much.